That's right. My guest tonight, an esteemed professor. She's part of the New York City Council on Climate Change. She's a professor at the law school and the climate school at Columbia. She wrote a great book called Co-Cities. Please welcome to the stage Sheila Foster, everybody. Yeah, I'm trying to speed this up a little bit. You can't tell. How you doing, Sheila?
I'm good.
Thank you for coming to the show and agreeing to do this. There's a picture of us right there. I'm a bookworm, huh? Look at that. Isn't that cool? This is her book, Co-Cities. Very good. You can see it up there. Put it down. But yeah, thank you again for doing the show. The book is great.
You actually read it.
I did. That's right. You see that, guys? Huh? There are interviewers who read books.
That's right.
Okay, so all the interviews you watch, like, so what's the book about?
That's right.
Come on. No, but seriously, what's it about? No, okay. No. All right. So the book Co-Cities basically is this idea that Sheila's worked on for many years, where basically the Co-City, the name basically means that it's run by a lot of different people, a lot of different groups, not just the city, not just private organizations, but people, institutions, knowledge institutions, nonprofits. Everyone kind of teams up to run a city in different capacities. It's a crazy idea, but you may be thinking, oh, how's that ever going to work? It's already worked in various, I guess, aspects of the city, whether it's parkland, we talk about the community gardens, and other things as well, like different wildlife, nature kind of reserve, things like that. But I wanted to just kind of start off with this idea. How do you think that would play out here in New York?
So it's already playing out. So
Yes.
First of all, thanks for having me. This
Of course,
is
no
a real
problem.
honor. Yeah. So it's already playing out, right? We have, so if you know Cooper Union,
Yes.
right, in Cooper Square, that's a community land trust. And there are other community land trusts around the city. And what that is that it's a nonprofit that owns the land and then leases housing or the use of the land for long term and gives limited equity to people to keep the cost of housing down. And these are actually thriving around New York City. So like a community garden, right, things can be governed, and it's governed by the people that live there and the people in the community along with other interests. So it already is working, right? I think a lot of people don't know that we have these models. There are tenants, so for instance, in the public housing building that you showed us, right? There are laws that allow tenants to buy their buildings and become cooperatives. So that's a really good example of how it can work and has worked.
Yes, and also it's a matter of also tweaking the model that's used. So for example, in the book you talk about bids. And I've talked about those here before. That's a business improvement district. So what you may not know is like when you're in Union Square, that's a place, even though it's a park, it's public, whatever, it's run by a private organization that's enabled by the city, that's made up of landowners in the area who assess a tax on themselves and then are giving it back so they can basically pay for security, keep it clean and nice, and you can walk through it and be like, I feel safe, this is nice. I guess some of the issues you run into is inequality.
That's right.
Places like Union Square have tons of money. Places like Central Park, tons of money. Places in the Bronx, places in Queens, don't. So you run into this inequality, and you run into anti-democratic kind of problems as well. So I was hoping you could talk about that as well. How do you shift these ideas that are already kind of being used, but are being used, I guess, improperly in a way, or not to their full potential?
Yeah, so bids are highly problematic, in part because they're anti-democratic, right? They're a small group of commercial landowners that are basically privatizing the public space, right? Streets, et cetera. And so what's the basic problem in cities these days, right? So we talk about the rent being too high, but actually the land value is too high. That's problem number one. And that's just not a problem for people paying the rent or buying houses, but it's also a problem for people that are developing houses, right? Second problem is that the city's for sale, right, to the highest bidder. So that means that the land is too high and people are extracting value out of it. And the people that are extracting value are not the people that are most bought into the city, right, being a place for all of us. So a lot of these models that we've been experimenting with and that are working in Europe, that are working across the country, are really trying to recapture the value of that land for the people that live in the city, and for and then to give decision-making power about what we do with those communities back to those people somewhat. Of course, not to re-privatize it in a community's hand, but to bring them to the center of governance.
And bring other groups into the fold.
Bring other groups into the fold, exactly. And so community gardens are a great kind of grassroots version of this, right? There was vacancy in the 80s and 90s in New York City, and a lot of what was happening on those lots is that, you know, there was drug dealing, people were dumping garbage. So what did communities do? They came, they cleared the lots, they created gardens. Right? And those became places for people to not just grow food, but also safe spaces, like, you know, eyes on the street, places in communities where there aren't parks, right, for kids to play. But then when Giuliani came in, right, and the city, in part due to his rezoning and cleaning up Times Square, came back, he said, we're going to take all this land back. And he could take those gardens back because the land did not belong to those people that created the gardens had no legal right to that land. They were essentially squatters, which the city allowed for a while, as long as it was, you know, keeping the place safe and clean. So there was a big legal fight about taking back those gardens. Actually, Bette Midler came in her one of her nonprofits and bought some of the gardens to preserve them. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Bette Midler, the wind beneath our wings. Huh? Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that's a good example too, because the city kind of is the referee in those areas. Because obviously developers lick their chops when they see things like that, and it's on the city to enable groups to be able to take over and to give them the kind of cover that they need. For example, the gardens, they started the Green Thumb.
Yeah,
So it's like this Project Green Thumb, which basically gives, you know, Project Green Thumb sounds like a drug smuggling operation, but it's actually they give basically gardening tools and money to upkeep and all this stuff and basically push along this already ongoing project. So it is kind of on the city to do these things and to help, I guess, legitimize them.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
As well. Okay, well, I think what role, because I think a big thing that people don't realize too with the cities, especially in the last few decades, especially since like Reagan and all that stuff, is federal money has slowed down significantly going into cities. So one of the reasons why cities are kind of left treating themselves like businesses, like pitching themselves to Amazon, or just kind of desperate for money because there's less money coming in from the federal government. They're kind of just like, well, we have to treat it like a business. You know, sorry, you poor people, you're not contributing to the business. How do you do this without appealing to the federal government if the federal government is what it is today? Sorry, Texas. You know. Okay.
So yeah, no, there's an interesting history. How many people have heard of Robert Moses? All right, so Robert Moses, right?
Hey. Robert Moses was my interview guest on the first show.
Oh, that's right.
I want you trashing him.
But this is a great example, right? Robert Moses was powerful because Robert Moses got tons of federal money, right, under the 1949 Housing Act for urban renewal, right? Tons of money from the federal government to spend, right? And he gave it to developers to build housing and other things, but also took people's property, right, to do that and built parks and freeways, et cetera. That was the old age, right? The federal government no longer, I mean, the federal government does send money to cities, but largely cities are left alone, and states are to some degree, to build themselves up. So cities in an era of not that much federal money flowing downward, as in the Robert Moses area, have had to chase mobile capital. So we get things like a competition to bring Amazon to your city, right? Remember that? Or a competition to bring Google. And so what does the city do? They attract Google with promises that they don't have to pay property taxes as long as they build and they bring employees. And so they want to create an economy around smart workers or high knowledge workers who will then pay taxes and then fund other things in the city. So much of it is based in, private capital and mobile capital, and not so much in the people that have lived here for a long time. So this model is really trying to shift that back to really restore some equilibrium.
Right. I mean, basically what you're saying is they rely on private capital because they have to rely.
Right, they have to.
And that's the whole idea. Yeah. That's why these things are being dismantled. That's because it's not that those things aren't going to get, quote, done, but they're not going to get done as well, and they're only going to get done for the people who can afford them or who can, provide some kind of monetary value or whatever. And I think that's pretty messed up. Well, what would you say is the legacy, I guess, of that urban kind of renewal and I guess era of politics? We can see it. I mean, you saw like the Reese houses.
I thought that was great what you did.
Thank you.
No, and so.
Thank you very much. Appreciate
that was a nice setup for this
you.
conversation. So one of the legacies is, communities where highways like the Cross Bronx were just run through them. Right, and split them up and obviously displaced people, broke up their social capital. Lincoln Center, so I used to teach at Fordham Law School at Lincoln Center. That used to be a working class community. And so we just kind of plop stuff, in the middle of the city. And again, I mean, it's a mixed legacy because a lot of what we know as New York really dates back to an era in which, people's property was taken for economic development, right? But also for public goods like highways and parks, and that's still the case. There's a famous case in the Supreme Court where they allowed, a city to take people's houses in Connecticut called the Kelo case to build a whole development around Pfizer. Pfizer actually never ended up coming. The Supreme Court said you can take property for a higher economic purpose. A company can change their mind, right? The economic wind shifted. You've lost your community, and the company goes about its way. And that area is still not developed to this day.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good segue, I guess, into the next part of this, which is it really requires us to reimagine what things like value even mean. Yeah. Because a lot of what we consider value, and it's so hard to shake it in this country, baby, where it's all money, all capitalism, all this stuff. It isn't all about money and what can be quantified. I think we're coming to a place now where we realize that way of thinking has failed us.
Well, the question is, who is the city for?
Right. Who's the city for? Yeah.
Who owns the city? Is it just the people that could buy land and build on it, or is it the people that create the culture, create the entertainment? Right. I mean, who owns the city?
Yeah. That's right. The person who creates the entertainment owns the city. Thank you. Finally someone said it.
I thought you'd like that.
Yeah. No, but I think you're 100% right, and I think it's hard to kind of shake those old ways of thinking. But in the book, Sheila points to a lot of models, like we were talking about, the community gardens, all these, where it's already done. And they've already been doing different, pilot projects and examples of this on bigger scales, with apartments, with land trusts, with all kinds of different things around the world. And even here they've done them. It's just a matter of scaling them up. But I guess that begs the question, I mean, how do you scale up something like this?
So, I mean, New York City, for instance, under de Blasio, the city council and the housing department set aside some money, millions of dollars, to give to communities to plan community land trusts, which is to say to plan to have land in their community and develop it in their own vision, right? And the city would transfer available land. In every city, this would shock most people. Even in New York, LA, the most high-cost cities, there is available land for development, right? And the choice is, does the city sell it, right, the Barclays Center, to a Chinese developer for $6 billion, or does the city give some of it to the people that live there to create a better and a more affordable life for themselves? So what New York City did is set some money aside, allow communities to plan it, and then said, if you can plan this well, we will transfer some of these available lots and land to you. So that's one way that a city can enable these kinds of development. And so as a result, there are lots of these land trusts that are proliferating around the city, and it's part of the affordable housing response of the city. You can do this for commercial land, for artistic spaces, for cultural spaces. There's also something New York did called participatory budgeting. Anyone hear about that? Yes. So, right, participatory budgeting is where the city takes part of its multi-hundred-million-billion-dollar budget and sets some aside to give to communities to figure out how they want to spend part of the city budget, right, that a central administration would tell you how to spend, but instead give it to them. They have an assembly, they gather ideas, and they vote on them, and they spend the money as such. So there are all kinds of ways that we can democratize cities for the people that live here and for the communities that have been here so that everyone can flourish.
Yeah, and I think that's really the crux of the issue, to use a little SAT word there, huh? That's right. I'll teach you something too, huh? But no, that's really it, is democratizing the process.
Yeah.
I mean, because people think like, well, what else are we going to use? The amount of money that something makes, that's the most obvious measurement, all this. But that in itself is a political decision. then they don't always swing that way on everything with, because it doesn't make sense sometimes. And in this case, it doesn't really make sense anymore. And I guess that's where it really comes down to, we all kind of, it's on us really, right?
Yeah,
I mean, it's the democratic process. We all have to speak up. We have to vote in people who are thinking this way. And I think one of the real things is that money in politics. I mean, I think one of the reasons in New York especially, if you're not familiar with REBNY, I don't know if you have ever, I mean, sure you are, a Real Estate Board of New York. It's one of the biggest special interest groups in the state of New York, if not the biggest, I think. And they have money in dozens of politicians' pockets. So when anything comes up on money, on land use or housing, guess how these people are going to vote? And the reason they can't vote otherwise is because they don't have the political capital a lot of times.
Yeah.
People don't know what's going on. They don't know the city even dictates this, or the state, and so they don't really pay attention. They're too busy yelling at each other, about Texas, But I guess my point is that it's kind of on us a little bit to understand these things.
Well, I think
exist.
we're seeing a shift. I mean,
Yeah, we are seeing a
and
shift.
I think we saw that in the mayoral race,
I
right?
think we
That
did,
money is no longer
Yeah.
king, and people have more power than they think
Yeah.
to put in people that are responsive.
Yeah, people are
Right.
tired, man.
Yeah.
People are tired. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think one of the people, and this is, coming from this point of view, people have always kind of known a little bit or had a hunch of what's going on and what's wrong, and money in politics, for example, things like that. It's like pretty obvious at this point. But what do each of us do on a day-to-day level, on like a micro level? What could we do to push these kinds of things along? Like, what is something an action and things that people can take part in?
Yeah, so I mean, it's just simple to put in place people. So everyone focuses on the mayor, but actually a lot of the most progressive policies and laws have in place in New York come from the city council. And we each have people that represent us neighborhood by neighborhood, including the borough presidents. So important to put in place those folks because those are the people that are going to make decisions about what happens in your community, what kind of public goods you get, and also about how much money, what is the role of money in politics. I mean, if we don't vote, then the people that are spending the most money and buying the most airwaves are really giving us the information that they want us to have, right, about our politics. So I think getting involved and also learning about different ways of existing in cities, right? And I do think that the models, so I think about in Boston, there's a very famous model called the Dudley Street model. And the Dudley Street community created a whole urban village, right, and managed to build themselves exactly what they needed. And during the foreclosure crisis, not one person lost a home. These models are resilient. I think about Africa Town in Seattle. I think about commercial land trust. I think about in Chicago, there's a citywide land trust that preserves these community gardens for communities all over the city. So there are different ways of doing things. That doesn't mean that capital is absent, right? It just means it's not king, and that communities have a strong role. So if we can find out about these models and support them and advocate for them and put in place people that are willing to, be brave and put in place things that help the average person in our cities, our politics and our lives will change.
I know, I agree 100%. I mean, I
Yeah.
think, it's a matter of getting involved, knowing who our city council people are.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
organizations, every single neighborhood in the city has a community organization, that does things from after school care to land use to help tenants organize, all kinds of things. And finding out who those people are, it's funny, but we become so alienated from our local governments
Yeah.
in this country
Yeah.
that it's counterintuitive. Because, listen, take this away. Democracy trickles up, baby. The
Yeah,
more you
that's
are,
right.
the more it's true.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
yeah.
true. We don't realize that. We don't. You can't even connect to that, but it's true. I mean, you're seeing it now with the mayoral election, like you said. Everyone's kind of like paying attention around the world to what's
Right.
going on here in New York because that's how it works. And why not participate in the things that we actually have a direct ability to change? You show up to your, city council person's office. You show up to these places and demand them to do stuff.
Or just be in community.
Yeah.
I think that's actually
Be in
going to be the thing
community.
that saves our democracy.
Yeah, for sure.
Is that most things happen on a local level. Like
Yep.
this is the government closest to most of the people. And the neighborhood level is the level where people find out about things, make connections, and move things. And again, if you have a mayoral candidate that is going into communities,
Yep.
not putting ads on TV, but going into communities and talking to people, I'm not surprised that the community came out for that candidate.
Yeah. No, for sure. And
Yeah.
I think to add to that, I think another part of that community is getting to know the people in your community.
Exactly.
Being a part of the community gives you a sense of value. You know what you're losing. You know what's at stake. You know you have impetus to participate and help and speak up for different groups when you're a part of that community as opposed to just watching, like a spectator. So yeah, that's. Sorry, I got a little carried away there. We still got to get through
That's a
this.
good thing.
Well, before we wrap with that topic, to the next question, what gives you hope, I guess, with everything happening now and knowing all that you know with what's going on?
I mean, I think the book is hopeful.
Nice plug.
That's a plug.
Come on.
That's a plug. That's a plug.
That's a pro right there.
Yeah.
That's a pro.
Yeah.
That's a pro.
What gives me hope
Yep.
is, I try to stay focused on the work that community groups are doing, that the local government and that states are doing. And I think we focus on the federal government, whatever you think of who's in office, that is not where most of the action is, actually. And what gives me hope is what happens in our communities and at the government that is closest to us. And that's why I work very closely with communities and with local governments, because there's a famous line from a Supreme Court case that says that states are the laboratories of democracy. And I would say cities are the laboratories of innovation. And so when presidents and new federal administrations get in, one of the things they look to for what works is what's happened at the state and city level, whatever your politics are. And I could name you tons of examples of the current administration pulling up things that have happened in states that they like, and the previous administration pulling up things that have succeeded at the state level, right? And so there's always good work to be done, even when we don't like the politics at the federal level, and that's what I keep focusing on. And my students give me hope, actually.
Yeah. And
the next generation, Gen Z
generation.
gives me hope.
Let's
actually.
punt down the road.
Yeah.
Let's punt.
Yeah.
Let's enjoy this
That's
life.
right.
Let them sort it out.
That's right.
They got more skin in the game.
That's right.
But no,
They're
it's
the
true.
future.
It's true what you said. Like it's the laboratory. I mean, there's the quote by Ed Koch where he says, "New York is where the future goes to audition."
Yeah.
And I think it's funny because New York has given the models for a lot of what we see as gentrification and a lot of these public-private partnerships, and these kind of started in the laboratory that is New York as well, and they've been adopted all over the world. But listen to us ramble, huh? Look at us, we're just going off. I wanted to move on to more important here. We got to get to know you before we wrap up here. We're going to go on to rapid fire questions. Here we go. Look at us, our faces are on fire. Oh no.
I love it.
No.
Oh no.
Yeah, rapid fire questions. That took me 3 hours to make. All right, so let's go. We're going to try to answer these quick and then wrap this up. All right, what's the craziest thing you've ever seen in New York City, Sheila?
Rat trying to enter my apartment.
Wow. That's the craziest thing?
If it happens to you.
No. I have rats knock on the door in my apartment. I look through the peephole, I'm like, leave me alone. Not today. Okay, rat trying to enter your apartment. That's good enough for me. All right, next one. If you didn't live in New York, where would you live?
So I lived in San Francisco for 9 years, never thought I'd leave. It's changed a lot now, but I think I would live
Go back to San Francisco, huh?
in the Bay Area, yeah.
It's an expensive city, too.
Or Italy.
Italy. Ah.
Yeah.
Italy or San Francisco?
Oh, okay.
All
there
right.
we go.
All right, take it easy.
Bellissima.
Yeah. We got the mayor of San Francisco, everybody.
That's right.
Yeah, all right. Cool. That's a tough one. You got all the pasta you could eat and rice-a-roni, I guess. I don't know. All right.
The Golden Gate Bridge. That's
And the
right.
Golden Gate Bridge,
that's
sure.
right.
Eat rice-a-roni on the Golden Gate Bridge. All right. So if you could be something other than a professor or a lawyer, what would you do for a living?
Therapist.
Therapist. Oh, perfect. We got a few minutes left. Let's see what you got.
That's right.
So I want to talk to you about my parents. Therapist, why?
I don't know. There's something about helping people overcome in life.
Sure.
That I find really purposeful, I guess. So, yeah. And I feel like I'm a therapist with my students and my colleagues. So.
Oh, that's nice. Nice. You're
Yeah.
a good listener.
Good listener, I
Nice.
guess. Yeah.
All right. Well, me too.
I bet you do.
So I'll go on to the next question. What's a book you would recommend to people to change their lives? Like if you could recommend one book, you're a professor, you've read dozens of books. in your life?
I will tell you the book that changed my life when
Yeah.
I was a young adult. It's called Necessary Losses. And it's like something about the illusions and expectations and things that we have to get over in order to grow up and grow. And it's this
Wow.
idea that, like, as you go through life, there are we lose friends, we lose things on a day-to-day basis, and that changed my life actually.
Who's the author?
Oh, I forgot, Judith something. I don't know.
Judith something.
But it's called Necessary Losses. It's
Necessary
a whole book.
Losses.
Yeah.
All right, cool. That sounds good.
Yeah.
Necessary Losses. Very apropos for life right now.
Indeed.
Okay, what do you think is a good slogan for New York City?
The inexhaustible city.
The inexhaustible city. I guess that's true.
I think New York is inexhaustible.
Yeah, that's a highfalutin way of saying a city never sleeps.
That's right.
I guess, right? I kind of. She is a professor.
That's right.
She's not about those bumper sticker slogans.
That's right.
It's an inexhaustible city. All right. What's your pet peeve here in New York City?
Foot traffic.
Foot traffic.
Too many people. Yeah.
Wow.
Too many people.
One person. one exhausted person
That's right,
there.
that's right, yeah.
Too many people.
Yeah.
Get rid of the people.
On the sidewalk. On the
Oh, okay.
sidewalk. On the sidewalk.
Okay.
It is impossible to walk.
Yeah, it is a lot of.
Yeah,
it depends on where you're walking too, I guess.
That's true, that's
right.
true,
Yeah,
that's true.
Okay, foot traffic. So people walking slow is
People
the people.
walking slow, you can't get
Yeah.
around people.
'Cause if there's
like,
foot
come
traffic
on,
and
move it, right? Let's move it.
Yeah. Okay.
Right?
Well, so slow walkers.
Slow walkers.
That's a very New York answer.
Yeah.
Do you yell at people? Will you tell people if they're moving too slow?
Depends.
Depends. I like that. That's the diplomatic lawyer answer
That's right.
there. All right. What's your advice to someone who's thinking of moving to New York or moving here? That's the correct answer.
You know what?
That's the correct answer. That's the correct answer when they tell you they're moving here.
When I first moved to New York, I was overwhelmed by the size. And I would say get to know New York by neighborhood. Take it a neighborhood at a time.
Yeah, I think that's great. Yeah,
It's
just
the
walk
Big
around.
Apple. You can't take the whole thing anymore.
Yeah, for
right?
sure.
Yeah,
Walk
yeah.
around, right? Walk around.
Walk around.
yeah.
That's right. Take this up.
Walk around, but not too slowly.
That's not too slowly.
Keep it moving. Take a picture. It'll last longer. Get to know the neighborhood. Okay, that's good. Okay, what's your favorite restaurant in New York? This is a controversial question.
Mermaid Bar.
Oh yeah, Mermaid Inn, the one here in right nearby, right?
Yep.
Was it Mermaid Inn? Is that
Mermaid Bar. No, on McDougal.
Oh, on McDougal. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, Mermaid Bar.
Yeah.
What kind of is it? Seafood?
It is seafood. It's great. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. They have happy hour, a great happy hour menu.
Wow, seafood. What's their dish? Their famous dish?
If you like
Mermaid.
oysters. Seafood. Good seafood.
Seafood.
Good seafood.
Okay, nice. All right. Seafood. All right. Okay. What's your favorite quote?
That's a hard one. I mean, for these days, my favorite quote is a Thomas Jefferson quote, which is, when the people fear the government, there's tyranny. When the government fear the people, there's liberty.
Yeah. Yeah. That's right.
The government should fear us more than we fear them.
Yeah. Let's go throw a trash can through a storefront window. Come on, who's with me?
Not that kind of fear, but.
All right. Sorry, Professor.
No.
All right, so who represents New York City to you? Who represents New York City the most to you? What person? Dead or alive?
God, these hard questions.
It's a good question.
It's a good question. I would say Mayor LaGuardia.
Nice.
Yeah, Mayor LaGuardia.
Yeah, Fiorello LaGuardia. If you guys know, he was president during. I'm sorry, the mayor during the Great Depression. Spoke 7 languages.
Yes, he did.
Because he was a clerk at Ellis Island. Pretty cool. What do you like about him?
He set the city in a whole new path,
Mm-hmm.
right? And he was short, like me.
That's right. It's a short king summer,
Short
everybody.
king.
I don't know if you guys knew that.
Short people do great things.
That's right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I got one question left, and we'll wrap it up. You've been a great guest. So just one more question, and we'll finish up here. It's very difficult. Will you be my friend, Sheila?
Better than that, I'm coming back to your show. I love this.
All right. I'll take that. That's good. Thank you so much for doing it. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Guys, everybody, Sheila Foster. All right. Well, we did it. Once again, we have solved the world's problems here at the show. So here's the deal, guys. Thank you. First of all, thank you guys for coming to the show. Did you guys have fun?